Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Blues podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and your number one source for daily Blues content. I'm Josh Hyman.
And I'm Thomas Welch.
We got an action-packed episode for you guys today. Over the weekend, big trade announced. The St. Louis Blues acquired Logan Brown in exchange for Zach Sanford, with some conditional picks in there as well, so we're going to get into that. The departure of everyone's favorite player, Zach Sanford, and the arrival of St. Louis native Logan Brown. And then we're also going to be getting into preseason. First game that happened, James Neal had a hat trick. We'll be getting into that. And then as we are recording this, and as you might be watching this live on YouTube, there is another preseason game going on. So if anything happens in that, we will react to it live. But first things first, Tommy. Big trade over the weekend. Kind of came in two segments. I think first it was announced that the Blues were acquiring Logan Brown. So that was pretty cool. And then a few minutes later, the news breaks that Zach Sanford's going the other way, which I think was a long time coming for a lot of Blues fans, but freed up a lot of cap, or a little bit of cap, which is nice, which is what we needed, and also freed up a new player to be the scapegoat for Blues fans. So we'll see who that might be. But
yeah, pretty solid. I'm happy with the result, like you said. Get a little bit of cap space, a little bit more breathing room for the St. Louis Blues once Oskar Sundqvist inevitably comes back from long-term injured reserve. But if you remember, Josh, that was the day that the Blues Twitter popped out that there would be a major announcement.
Oh, big announcement.
5 p.m. And so
big reveal.
Everybody's wheels are turning in the head and you don't know what's going on. So like for me, I thought right off the jump, like a major announcement is a trade. So but that doesn't make a lot of sense because I didn't really know what was going on.
For me, it was like, if it were a trade, there's no way the trade would have been completed in order
without
for the Blues
Freeman popping out. Yeah.
Right. There's no way that the Blues would have known that there was an announcement to make, and we wouldn't have known what it was as well. I mean, the Armstrong extension broke like pretty much like an hour after that tweet anyways. Right. So I think if it were a trade, we wouldn't know. But it was funny that the timing, the way it worked out. Busy day for the Blues. We didn't even talk about the Armstrong, or we didn't even think to talk about the Armstrong extension, but we probably should.
We definitely should. But I was gonna say, like you think about like the first thing in your head when you think of a major announcement as a trade, but then I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. So it's probably like a jersey thing or like a promo. And then people started talking about the Armstrong extension. I'm like, yeah, that makes the most sense. And then out of nowhere, they drop a trade anyway, and I'm like, okay. What's happening at 5, So it's like, it's just absolute chaos. But I think there's kind of two sides to the coin here. And one of those sides is as much as we love to blame Zach Sanford for a lot of things, he was a key part of the team bringing a Stanley Cup to St. Louis. Whether you think he played a pivotal role or not is up for determination, but he'll always be beloved, in my opinion, here because of the role he played in bringing the Stanley Cup here. Finally, after 50 years. So kudos to him for that. I think he's a more defensive-minded forward who's pretty good at blocking shots. Maybe he's not the best with covering his man or stick play or untimely turnovers, but he's also young and he's got a lot of games ahead of him in the NHL and a lot of time to figure it out, because one of the biggest things with Zach Sanford was that he's streaky, right? But there were times when he was ice cold and everyone hated him and wanted him out of here, which I think Doug alluded to the fact that he does read Twitter, so that might be why he did get traded. But
you think so? You think the fans finally got to Doug?
It's possible. I mean, he is a people pleaser. That's a good exclamation point on your on the day that you sign your extension. But I also, like I said, I think Zach Sanford has a lot of career ahead of him, but so does Logan Brown. And a lot of people were saying that the Blues lost this trade because they gave up Zach Sanford, who's kind of more proven player than Logan Brown. But you take the cap space into consideration, the Oskar Sundqvist situation into consideration, Robert Thomas into consideration. Logan Brown's played 30 games in the NHL, and those 30 games were with the Ottawa Senators. So I don't think that's a good enough gauge to really determine what he brings to a team, especially when he's coming to a team in St. Louis where he grew up and played for the Junior Blues. I think you have to take that into consideration too. So there's a lot of things that could revolve around this trade. I get immediate takeaways and people being like, "Oh, I think the Blues lost this trade," but I think 5 years down the road, it could be a complete 180.
Yeah, I think it's two players that definitely needed a change of scenery. Logan Brown was the 11th overall pick just 5 years ago, in 2016. St. Louis native, which is always something you love to see. And like you said, was with the Ottawa Senators, an organization that isn't exactly the pinnacle of prospect development and getting them ready for the NHL. So I think that can definitely be taken into consideration. But the other facet of it is he is a 6'6" forward. He is a little not the greatest skater. So is there fear that we have another Zach Sanford on our hands? I hope not. I think, like you said, both players will thrive in their new change of scenery. I think Zach Sanford's going to have a pretty strong season. I think he's going to be in a more comfortable role with Ottawa than he was with St. Louis, I hope, and will be utilized a little bit better, and therefore will kind of get some of the hate off his back. Hopefully he doesn't become that scapegoat in Ottawa as well. But from a Blues fans' perspective, focusing on Logan Brown, that's exciting. More youth for this roster. Is something, no such thing as too much youth. Even if he's not going to turn into a first-line superstar player, it's better to have someone that can fill that spot that's 23 versus 37 who, could be injured and out of the league, whatever it may be. You got some potential there, and that's something that I'm very excited about.
And $750K versus $2 million, I think, is the main takeaway for the St. Louis Blues. I think that's the main takeaway you have to look at if you're a Blues fan, and you did want Sanford to stay. We talked about it off season. Like some dominoes were going to have to fall to keep Robert Thomas, keep all of these guys that you want to, and kind of fall under the cap. We thought it was going to be Tarasenko. Tarasenko's back on the team. Another domino has to fall, and just unfortunately for him, it was Zach Sanford.
Well, I'll tell you what, dominoes are continuing to fall. Hockey season is right around the corner. Football season, full swing. Basketball season right around the corner. Tommy, you're going to need a place to watch all these games. And does it sound familiar? You've got one streaming service installed on your TV that gets the football game. You got another one on your phone that gets the basketball game. You got a Roku remote that gets the hockey game. And overall, you're just overwhelmed. You're just trying to sit down, relax, and watch sports. And if that sounds like familiar, you need to check out DirecTV Stream. DirecTV Stream brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. You can get rid of the clutter and confusion. Get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That is directtv.com. Compatible device required, and content varies by package. Now, when we return, we're going to be finalizing the talks of the Zach Sanford for Logan Brown trade. If you got to dot some I's and cross some T's with that one. And then maybe talk about the Doug Armstrong extension a little bit before finally diving into preseason, the first game, and maybe the second game if something exciting happens, so don't go anywhere. All right, Tommy. So the trade obviously included a conditional pick as well. I believe you said it was a second-round pick
Fourth. In 2022 if
Logan Brown plays 30 games.
Exactly.
Okay, so just a little bit of extra incentive there for the Blues to, or for the Senators, I guess you could say. And that would be nice if Logan Brown is a regular enough to play 30 games, because I think he's going to be in a pretty competitive race for one of those final bottom 6 spots. I don't think it's too short up. Obviously, with Bozak coming back in, that's a big addition, but especially early in the season with Sundqvist being on LTIR, I think that bottom 6 is a little bit up in the air right now with how it's going to look. So Logan Brown, I think, could see himself as high as the third line on the opening night roster if he works himself into that spot. So who knows? It's exciting.
Another person that could see himself as high as that third line on opening night is James Neal. He scored a hat trick in the first preseason game. How'd you feel about that, Josh? I don't know if you watched the game or not, but just hearing that a PTO comes in, kind of a guy that people thought was at the end of his career and was just going to come in and make league minimum and like not really do anything, maybe be a voice in the ear of some of these younger players. But overall, the chances of him actually coming in and making a lot of noise were slim. And then what does he do? Proves all the haters wrong on game one, night one, and pots 3 of them in the back of the net. So how did you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, he really certainly proved everyone's expectations. You could say that he is the the real deal.
Real deal, James Neal.
Oh wow, I've never heard. Yeah, we should trademark that one. It's pretty good. No, but I mean, I think he's a guy that's made his way around the league. He knows how to score. He knows how to put the puck in the net. It's kept him in the NHL for as long as he's been there. I think lately he's been on some teams that have struggled, that he hasn't really had a good role carved out. But then he comes in with the Blues, and like I said, a really competitive bottom six where he's not necessarily going to be asked to go out there and be a goal scorer. But they say, hey, it's up in the air for now. We've got some injuries to start the season. We've got some open spots. We've got some guys that we might trade. Don't need to get into that. But saying basically, if you go out there, prove yourself, mentor the young guys, or even earn yourself a spot. And James Neal could absolutely be that, either like that third line sort of dynamic scorer, or just a fourth line guy, or just matchup based. But he proved out there that he has the capability to hang with NHL players. He's not washed. He's not, doesn't need to hang up the skates or anything like those a lot of people were saying. But definitely a competitive preseason when it comes to roster spots. And James Neal, a guy that I don't think a lot of people expected to be pushing as hard as he has been, is making a name for himself. And I'm excited. I would love to see him in a Blues uniform. It kind of looked good, I'll be honest. Not what I expected to see after watching him play on what seemed to be rivals for the longest time. Seeing him in a Blue Note was a little weird.
No, it looked nice though, and I think
it looked nice.
Obviously, like a hat trick is gonna like jump out at you off the score sheet in any regard, right? But I think even if he doesn't score those 3 goals, he was easily probably top 3 players on the ice for the St. Louis Blues, just in cycling pucks, connecting passes, using that physicality. Like if you're going to be a bottom 6 guy on the St. Louis Blues, you got to bang bodies and you got to hit people, right? And that's exactly what he was doing. I forget who got hit after the whistle behind the net, but he went right over there and like grabbed the player who did it and was like sticking up for his teammates already. So that's exactly what you want to see from a guy like that. I think he makes the team, and I think there was a lot of takeaways because I went to the game. There was a lot of takeaways from the first preseason game. James Neal being one of them, a bright star. Robert Thomas had a heck of a game, an assist, a nasty no-look backhand assist into the slot on the first goal of the game to Brandon Saad. I think Jeremy Rutherford tweeted out that he expects Robert Thomas to get 50 assists this season. I wouldn't be surprised, dude.
Wow.
Just looks like he has a second and third gear that he's hit that we haven't seen.
He's got eyes in the back of his
about
head.
Last season. Yeah, exactly. This looks like some of the hockey. I mean, it's one game that I've seen, but it looked preseason like game. It looked like some of the best hockey I've seen from Robert Thomas, and he's skating with a lot of confidence and skating with conviction. I think that's kind of what at times we saw that missing last season, especially if you're getting banged up by injuries. It's hard to stay focused and stay confident and convicted the entire season, but he looks like it so far.
Yeah, skating like a man who just got paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Deservedly so. No, I forgot you were at the game, but that is exciting. And Robert Thomas did look really good. I think you can't take too much away from preseason hockey. You can take away like how guys are looking, if there was anyone that was injured, how well they skate, but also like the guys like James Neal, the fringe guys. Do they belong, or are they clearly just there for, to fill spots for the preseason? And I think that we saw a little bit of both of that. We saw that Robert Thomas has taken a bit of a step, has hopefully taken a bit of a leap, and is looking comfortable and confident out there. Like you said, James Neal looked really strong as well. So I'm hoping that we get some more surprises in the preseason. But I'm itching for that regular season.
Here's another surprise. Here's another surprise that I saw today about 30 minutes ago that I was not expecting to see.
I might not know this.
So Jake Neighbors and Scott Perunovich played in the first game, right?
Yep.
They're playing tonight too.
Okay.
And Marco Scandella is the only starter from last year, I think, that has not played in the game yet. Which I think Berube said don't read too much into. It's just like the pairings. Scandella said too. It's just pairings and stuff. But I don't know. what have we been talking about on this podcast? Perunovic might make a name, and someone's going to be the odd man out. And I don't know.
I mean,
if it's Scandella,
it certainly seems like the fact that Scandella at the moment doesn't have a shored up D partner, and the fact that Perunovic is getting as much playing time and as much looks as he is, certainly seems like Perunovic could be gunning for Scandella's spot. Couldn't find the word there. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's not that last defensive spot. Maybe a guy like Nikola or Wallman already has earned their spot over at Scandella. Maybe Scandella is the sixth defenseman right now. I would not be surprised. I feel like when he came in, he was like our third defenseman, honestly. And he thrived in that fire. Role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of him being the sixth defenseman, I think a lot of people didn't even consider that like, oh yeah, no, he's either going to be on the second pairing opening night or we're going to trade him. He might just be scratched here and there, which would be a little unfortunate, but it could be 6th/7th defenseman right now are Perunovic and Scandella. And that would be, I mean, that's, again, exciting, seeing these young guys compete for spots. As much as Scandella struggled, the fact that, if this is true, if Perunovic is able to potentially beat him out in training camp, that says a lot more about Perunovic than it does about Scandella, I think.
He looked good first game. I would say the best players I saw first game were definitely Neal, Perunovic, Robert Thomas. Saad looked really good and at home on that line with Robert Thomas and Vladimir Tarasenko. So kind of like we talked about.
How did Tarasenko look? Not to open up that.
Tarasenko looked good. He was smiling in the pregame, kind of going around, smacking guys' shin pads with his stick, cracking jokes with guys. So, I mean, you could, like you said, it's preseason and it's one game, but
can't read too much into it. But hey, better than if he was out there cursing everyone out, screaming, "I want the trades!"
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, before we head into our last segment, because I do kind of want to talk about the Doug Armstrong extension and what it means for like the future of Blues hockey. Before we get into that, speaking of something that's long tenured, got to talk about our OG sponsor, and that is Built Bar. Do you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? There is something for everyone. When you talk to a Built Bar fan, they're definitely passionate about their favorites. If you're choosing between the Built Bar flavors, you don't know what they got. Well, they got coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, cookies and cream, and German chocolate. And if you haven't tried all the flavors, you can get yourself a mixed box where you'll get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. And not only are Built Bar's flavors the best tasting, but they're also healthy. If you're looking at the macros, you're getting 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy. So go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. And when we return, we're going to be talking about the Doug Armstrong extension, what it means for the Blues, and what we hope he can accomplish over these next 5 years. Don't go anywhere. All right, Tommy. So same day as the big trade was announced, another big announcement went live. Well, kind of live. Reporters broke it before. But the St. Louis Blues announced via press conference that general manager Doug Armstrong signed a 5-year contract extension. I want to make sure. Yeah,
yep,
5-year contract extension to continue reigning over the Blues' decisions for the next half decade. Are you excited about that? Do you like the direction he's been taking the team in? Do you think these next 5 years will benefit him? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think rightfully so. We were kind of skeptical this offseason just because we didn't know what was going to happen with Parayko. We didn't really know, like, this team kind of felt like it was caught in between when it came to speed and skill and physicality and kind of their bread and butter in 2019, right? And so once Mike Hoffman moved out and we were like, what is going on? And lost some other players, we're like, what is going on? But then solidified Colton Parayko, which I think was huge in an offseason that obviously defensemen were getting lucrative contracts. So that's massive. Bringing back a guy that was not only part of that cup run, but is part of your core as he should be and is 100% now as was reported. So I think that was a great move, bringing in a guy like Buchnevich, who we said was essentially the perfect fit for this team because he's a two-way guy. He's going to bring it in every zone, and he's also on the younger side, so it's going to set you up moving forward, even past this 2023 kind of Stanley Cup window that they had projected. So I honestly think the years is great too, because if you're looking at 2023 as like the end of that window, you're going to need a guy who's been around the way and who knows how to rebuild a team essentially from nothing. And Doug Armstrong has shown in his time with St. Louis that every year he's been GM, he has a plan and he carries it out. And whether or not that leads to a team being successful that season or a team being successful in 2 or 3 seasons, he always has an idea. He always knows what to do. And I think he's got to be like top 5 GMs in the NHL easily.
Yeah, I would agree. Another benefit of that is we don't have to worry about the old GM trying to save their job by sacrificing the future of the team narrative. You see it all the time. GMs will have a year left on their contract, 2 years left on their contract, and they're not guaranteed a renewal because the team's sort of like where the Blues are right now, not necessarily a contender, but also have a lot of pieces to build on. And GMs panic because they're on their final year. They don't have an extension. They need to make a cup run this year, and they make terrible trades. They shift prospects off for aging veteran rentals that don't turn into anything. It's a tale as old as time. And the fact that the Blues kind of went and sneakily gave Doug Armstrong this extension before he could potentially fall into that trap and worry about his contract versus the future of the team. So that's something that's nice as well, knowing that anything that Doug Armstrong has planned, it'll be a long-term plan because he knows he's got 5 years with whatever his vision may be. He's got 5 years to complete it.
Yeah. So I have another question talking about the future of the St. Louis Blues, kind of. So there's a preseason game tonight. Obviously, a lot of prospects are playing. I don't know if you've looked at the lines, Josh, but the first line for the St. Louis Blues tonight is David Perron, Ryan O'Reilly, and Jordan Kyrou. And Jake Neighbors is on the second line with Buchnevich. And he's also there with Braden Shen. So in your opinion, kind of taking that stuff into consideration,
I like that.
Perunovich and Falk is the first pairing. Torrey Krug and Mikkola, Tyler Tucker and Rosen, Binnington and Hofer in goal. So taking all these things into consideration, if you had to pick one locked-on player of the game for tonight's matchup, haven't seen any of the game yet.
Look at the smile! Look at the smile! Look how good it was.
Bringing it back. If you had to pick one player, who would it be, Josh?
Wow! Oh man, you caught me off guard on that one. My pick for tonight's locked-on player of the game. You said Jordan. It was Jordan Kyrou, David Perron, Ryan O'Reilly, Jake Neighbors, Buchnevich, Shen.
Yes.
I'm looking for a big night out of Jake Neighbors. He's playing with some vets. He's playing with some guys that can get him the puck and that can also score the puck if he gets it to them. He is pushing for a spot. Hasn't really found himself on the score sheet yet. I think he's going to have a big night tonight. I think he's confident. I think he's ready. I think he knows where to be on the ice, and that'll fit him perfectly on that line. So, yeah, Jake Neighbors is my pick for the first locked-on player of the game of this brand new season.
All right, so mine's going to be kind of a curveball here, but bear with me, all right? So I think the easy answer here is Jordan Kyrou because he's going to be on a line with our 2 best players. Like, no way about it. Dude's going to be on a line with David Perron so he can get an assist easily by setting him up, or he can get a wide-open shot from Ryan O'Reilly, who's probably one of the best, if not the best, playmakers on our team. So I think he's set up for success there, but I'm going to go a different route and tell you a little story. So preseason game 1, right? It was reported that Ville Husso was going to go 2 periods and Lindgren, I think I said his name right. I don't know. I'm bad with pronunciations. Lindgren, the other goalie, was going to go 1. Preseason game happened. Ville Husso went 1 period and Lindgren went 2. So I don't really know what happened there, but I don't know. Husso didn't look great in warmups, and he looked a little bit shaky in the first period. Next thing I know, he's out of the game. Joel Hofer is playing tonight, and I'm assuming he's going to get some periods.
I see. I was wondering where you were going with this.
But Joel Hofer has all the talent in the world. I think our goalie prospects are fantastic, and he's probably the cream of the crop when it comes to them. I think we could potentially see some jostling of the depth chart not with Jordan Binnington, but the people past him. And I think
imagine?
Joel Hofer could give Ville Husso a run for his money with a good performance tonight and some other good performances this preseason. So my player for Locked On Player of the Game is going to be Joel Hofer tonight.
Look, man, we know how weird goalies are. We know how quickly goalies can rise and fall. There is absolutely a reality out there where Joel Hofer leads us to a Stanley Cup this year.
This year? Yeah, if Binnington gets hurt, maybe.
Hey,
you never know.
What's
Don't speak that into existence, but
you can't say we haven't seen that one before because we have.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember reading a Doug Armstrong quote from forever back. One last tangent before we wrap this one up. He said something along the lines of, someone asked him a question like, "Oh, you picked a goalie in this draft. You already have so many." This is back when like Jordan Binnington wasn't even our starter, so prove the point there. But he basically said like there is no such thing as a goalie prospect cupboard that is too stacked. You never know when you're going to need one. You never know when your starter is going to become unusable. We've seen that happen, unfortunately, and we also never know when some guy that's been milling around the AHL or almost the ECHL can come up and lead you to a Stanley Cup. So it's a good problem to have too many goalies like the Blues have at the moment. So I'm looking forward to seeing if Hofer could establish himself as well. That's a great pick. I do think that's all the time we have today. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That way, whenever we reference like my smile, you can see what we're talking about. Hit that notification bell as well, because we do record all of our episodes live. So you can witness the live recording of our episodes before Tommy does his magic, edits it all, makes it sound all beautiful. You can hear the live, raw, uncut version of our podcast. If you subscribe and stay tuned, around 7:30 Eastern on weekdays is when we're going to be doing that. And then everywhere else, you can hit that follow button on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. You can listen to the audio versions there as usual. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Locked On Blues. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL, and follow Tommy at TWelcher15. And as always, let's go Blues.